Hello, welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are going to be bringing you a different show. We're actually going to be doing our top 5 one crazy night/day films. So I was going to have Jason maybe kind of kick it off and take it away and kind of explain what the criteria is for a one crazy day/night film.
Okay, so you and I have always enjoyed these kinds of movies. It's one of my favorite, not really a subgenre because it straddles so many genres, but I've always loved movies that are set in a kind of a limited time frame. It's one of my favorite things. Not necessarily real time, although I do like some movies that are set in real time. But movies that are set within one single night or one single day or no more than 24 hours. There's so many good ones. And when we started talking about doing a show on that, a top 5, I was like, yeah, cool, easy. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. So I'm going to explain because we didn't really talk about what our own ground rules were.
Right.
I had to really think about it. But what I chose to do, obviously, stay within 24 hours, and I think all of these are they're night. Yeah, it was specifically nighttime for all of these for the most part. But what I chose to do, because otherwise it just was going to be too difficult, was kind of stay away from clear genre films, because you could almost do an entirely different show on every genre film for this set in that kind of time frame, because there are so many horror films set over one night. There's Night of the Living Dead, Green Room, House of the Devil, The Funhouse, Assault on Precinct 13, Evil Dead, a million. Yeah. There's a million action movies: Die Hard, Collateral, Panic Room, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, the original, not the remake. Comedies. There are some comedies that I really thought would be in there, like Dazed and Confused, American Graffiti, Friday, Booksmart, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Even dramas. I stayed away from dramas like Do the Right Thing, Fruitvale Station, Dog Day Afternoon. So to make it easier for me, I kind of went with movies that are kind of not really genre movies. They're kind of weird, kind of funky movies that are kind of in between genres. And they definitely all have some kind of sort of zany element, I guess you could say, just about really like a crazy night. You know what I mean? So in between genres, and I have some five really good ones, I think. So cool. What did you do with yours?
I didn't really care about that, the genres per se. I just went with whatever I felt were the best films of that. The only thing I tried to do, and I don't know if I 100% do it because I haven't seen some of these films in a few years, I tried to not pick films that, because I know you had a list going on a site of like 100 and something films. And I looked at that list, and there's a lot on there that I would have maybe have included, but I excluded some of them because a lot of them had like really, really long flashbacks from previous days or events, like Reservoir Dogs. You could say that one's filmed in a 1 day period, but there's a lot of flashback scenes where Tim Roth is doing training and stuff like that, from months before. You know what I mean? So I tried to like not include too many films where there was a whole lot of like other scenes or flashbacks from other days and stuff like that. I wanted to try as much as I could to keep it centrally located to, a one crazy day or 24-hour period, or, you know what I mean? Something of that nature. Try to keep it within that realm where they didn't have a bunch of flashbacks from previous days or months or whatever case may be. Because there was a lot of scenes that they showed flashbacks a lot in that film like that. There was some other ones that were on the list that I felt like fell into that category. So that's all I really just try to do. Try to keep it compacted as much as I could to a 24-hour period. And if any of you guys are watching and, we mention one where they have a flashback or something like that, I apologize, but some of these maybe I haven't seen in a few years, but I try to keep it as mostly centered around that 24-hour period as possible. And that's all I really focused on for myself. So.
Looks like I did too. So I think we're set. So
cool. Yeah. Well, without further ado, let's get into it.
Okay. After doing all of this whittling down, staying away from genres, going with the weird ones in between genres, my number 5 is actually probably of all these the closest to sort of a genre film, and that is Miracle Mile. So I think this is a really special movie. It's one that a lot of people have never heard of. It kind of came and went when it came out in 1989. I didn't see it when it was 1989. I was 11 years old.
Right.
I didn't see this until my friend Walter told me about it years and years later. But it's finally got a nice new Blu-ray, but that's cool. But this movie, it truly is like a One Crazy Night movie. I think it even is in real time. No, it's not. It's not quite. I think the last hour is real time, basically. But it stars Anthony Edwards, years before ER. I don't think anybody really knew who he was. Well, actually, Top Gun had been out. But anyway, Anthony Edwards stars as this guy. He's kind of a nerdy guy who's kind of shy, but he meets this girl that he likes. And that's just the setup. The meat of the movie is that it's kind of like a Twilight Zone episode in the way that he accidentally intercepts a phone call. He decides to pick up a ringing phone booth. Remember phone booths? Those used to be a thing. But he picks up a ringing phone and he accidentally intercepts a call and finds out that there's a nuclear bomb headed toward the United States. And it's going to land in about an hour. And he knows this now, this top secret thing, and nobody else knows about it. And the rest of the movie is pretty much in real time. What do you do in that kind of situation? So I don't want to spoil it or anything, but things get a little. I mean, like it's set in Los Angeles for one thing, and you can see there's a palm tree on fire. So obviously he tells some people, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends. So by the end of the movie, it's pretty much full on chaos. But it's a really interesting movie. It's got a really cool score by Tangerine Dream, who did the score for Risky Business and a whole lot of other 80s movies. And it is kind of a genre movie, but I guess you could say it's science fiction, I guess. But it's also action. It's also comedy. It's also a love story. It's a whole lot. It's a very weird melting pot kind of movie. But I think it's a really special one that more people should check out for sure. So that's my number 5, One Crazy Night movie. And it's definitely about a crazy night for sure.
Cool.
So,
yeah, I vaguely remember it. You know what I mean? I haven't seen it in many, many years, so I only vaguely remember it. I don't remember it being a bad film or anything like that. I don't specifically remember it being all set in one day. Probably because I haven't seen it in so many years. But yeah, it's a good choice. Definitely, one that I would say is a good choice. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
That's insane praise, Kier.
Yeah, man.
It certainly is a choice.
Certainly is something.
Yeah.
Cool. My number 5, and like I said, I didn't care about genres or any of that kind of stuff. I just went with whatever I enjoyed watching that's set in pretty much a day. And it was actually one of the ones you actually alluded to. So probably all of them are ones you alluded to, but it's actually going to be Fruitvale Station. It's just one of my favorite movies. I enjoy it quite a bit. Basic premise, based on a true story. Basically, it's based on if you don't know the story, basically set in San Francisco or Oakland. San Francisco or Oakland, I can't remember. Anyways, it's set in one of the two cities in the Bay Area.
It's close to Oakland, I think.
Yeah, so set in the Bay Area, basically, it chronicles the day of this individual played by Michael B. Jordan. It kind of chronicles like his day in life, the things that he's doing, and he's not necessarily the most up and up person per se, but it kind of chronicles like his story, what he's doing, and shopping and going around town. And later on that night, he gets on basically the train station, and some things happen, and ends up the officers end up detaining him and handcuff him and have him face down on the ground. And one of them either accidentally shoots him in the back, basically, and he dies. It's not a spoiler per se to say that, because it's a true story. But it kind of chronicles the day in the life of him and his character, so you get a little bit about him, that kind of stuff. Very poignant for today, and with everything going on with the protests and the Black Lives Matter movement and that kind of stuff. So definitely one that if you haven't checked out, I definitely highly recommend that you check that one out. And like I said, it kind of stays in that same lines of an unarmed person that dies at the hands of police officers and police brutality kind of thing. So but yeah, it's definitely set pretty much over just one day. I don't know, the whole film probably is chronicles maybe 12, 14 hours of the day kind of thing. So that is my number 5.
Yeah, it's a great choice, and like you said, is unfortunately relevant all the time, but especially right now.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's great. It's great. I don't own that one. I only saw it the one time in the theater, but I definitely, I gave it my highest rating for sure. Yeah, great movie. Can't really say anything else about it.
Well, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Okay. So again, staying outside of strict genres and kind of keeping it kind of wacky and weird in between genres. I don't know if you've seen this movie, but I definitely recommend it. It's called Tangerine. So this is a great movie. It is one of my favorite movies. Another unconventional Christmas movie that we were talking about before. But it's basically about it's on Christmas Eve night. It's about these two transsexual hookers. So
all right.
It's about two transsexual hookers. One of them just got out of jail, and they're trying to find her pimp, and they get into a lot of wild adventures over the course of the night. I don't really want to spoil it or anything, but it is a wild movie, and it kind of made headlines because it was made on an iPhone, and it looks really good. I mean, I don't think it was like just a regular iPhone that you could pick up at the store. I think they modified it, added some lenses and stuff like that. But
Steven Soderbergh's been doing that recently. His last, I think, 3 or 4 films are shot on an iPhone as well. So
right, but it doesn't have that kind of almost
grainy
kind of
look to it. Yeah,
well, it definitely looks grainy sometimes, but it looks like it doesn't have that kind of warped kind of look that his movies do, and I don't mind it. I like that, but it's a hilarious movie, but it's also very poignant in a lot of ways, and the acting is great. It's hilarious. The music is great, and then the director Sean Baker went on to make the Florida Project, which is another really good movie that
I've heard of that one also. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That's the movie that he was able to get Willem Dafoe, I'm sure, because of the hype that this movie had. But it's a really cool movie, a really special movie, one of my favorite Christmas movies, and definitely one crazy night movie for sure. So
cool.
Tangerine.
Cool.
Check it out.
Cool. All right. Well, I can't comment much on it. I mean, I guess that's the only part about when you pick these off the wall zany films. I don't have much of a discussion because I haven't seen it. But yeah, cool. Maybe it's one that I will check out someday when I am in the mood for transvestite hookers, transsexual hookers for their pimp. So. All right, cool stuff. All right, well, my number 4 is one that everybody knows, and another one that I've owned at some point. I just don't own it right now for some reason, but definitely one that is very popular. So everybody probably have seen it, and that is going to be Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Which is definitely a genre film, I guess, of comedy, if you will, or whatever. But it's. Everybody's pretty much seen it. Great 80s film, basically about Ferris Bueller taking a day off. Matthew Broderick, basically, he's this super popular kid. Everybody loves him. He does tons of favors for everybody, but he skips school all the time, apparently, just for no reason. And he just, and then he has people like cover for him and that sort of stuff. And, there's his friends decide to skip with him reluctantly or unreluctantly. And then the principal is also looking for him, trying to find him, trying to catch him busted because everybody's pretending like he's sick, where he really just skipped school. But the principal's like trying to track him down and catch him in the act and that sort of stuff. And then, of course, his sister is also, I guess she kind of feels like he gets away with everything. So she's also probably partially hoping he gets caught kind of situation as well. But just a really, really good comedy. And it's, like you said, just kind of set up for one school day, basically. So another one of those one crazy days because they obviously get in all kinds of wacky stuff where they, one of his friends steals his dad's car and they go to the ballparks. They just do a lot of crazy stuff. So just one of my favorite films of all time and also a really great One Crazy Day film. Number 4.
Yeah. Ferris Bueller. Yeah. There's no. I can't say anything bad about Ferris Bueller. It's probably in my all-time top 10, to be honest.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I haven't really thought about my all-time top 10 in a while, but at one time it certainly was. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect movie. It's great, and it bugs me all the, because every once in a while you'll see somebody write an article these days about how Ferris Bueller was really a bad person and all this stuff, and it's like, just lighten up. It's a great movie. The characters are fun. It's a perfect movie. Yeah, it's not in my list for this because, again, even though it's one of my favorite movies that takes place in less than 24 hours, I had to choose to avoid genre to whittle it down to something. So I could have done 100 of these probably. So, but yeah, cool. It's a great choice, obviously. Yeah.
Cool. All right, we're already on number 3.
3. Yeah. Okay. So 3, it's probably another one that you haven't seen, unfortunately, but it is Mystery Train. So this is a film by one of my favorite filmmakers, Jim Jarmusch, or Jarmusch. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but he made Ghost Dog, Coffee and Cigarettes, Stranger Than Paradise, Night on Earth. He made a zombie movie a couple years ago, The Dead Don't Die, which is not one of his best movies, but I liked it. I'm a big fan of Jim Jarmusch, and I think this is probably my favorite movie of his. It came out in 1989. It's set in Memphis, Tennessee, which is one of my favorite places to go. I just went there last year again for the first time in a long time. Memphis is a really, really interesting city, especially if you're a fan of music. It's the birthplace of the blues, essentially. But this movie takes place over the course of one night, of course, and it's 3 stories that they're mostly separate, but they do intersect in some ways. The first one is 2 Japanese tourists coming to Memphis. Second one is a woman who kind of ends up staying at a haunted hotel. And then the third one is it's got Steve Buscemi and Joe Strummer, and that's the only one that has any kind of action because it's got a little bit of a little violence in that one. But it's a really interesting movie. It's very funny, but it's very deadpan comedy like Jim Jarmusch does. And it's one of my favorites for sure. And actually, when I went to Memphis last year, I made a point to go to the Arcade Cafe, which is featured very prominently in the movie and in the second segment of the movie. And that was really cool to go there because it looks just like it used to in the movie. And they even have like a placard out front that says Mystery Train was shot here. So one of my favorite movies. If you're a fan of music, definitely check out Mystery Train. So
cool. Yeah, I've never even heard of it. So yeah, awesome. So, I guess that's going to be the thing with this list. Movies I choose are going to be like movies that everybody have seen and loves, and movies you're choosing are going to be movies that nobody's ever heard of. But
movies that everybody should see and love.
All right, cool stuff. Cool stuff, man. So don't have much of a comment to make on that because I haven't seen it. So cool. Maybe one that I'll check out at some point in time also.
Okay.
My number 3, I think we're on 3, is another high school comedy, actually, which is going to be 3 O'Clock High. So I just love 3 O'Clock High. It's one of I like it better than Ferris Bueller personally. I just love it. That's just me. I love it. I think it's a better film personally. It's just one of those just great high school films. Basically, the main star's day in the life is he's going to school, and when he gets to school, one day he finds out that this other kid from another school is enrolling first day in the school, named Buddy Revell, and he is this just a bad dude. You know what I mean? Just a big bad dude. Everybody's heard about him. He played football. He gets in fights. He's beating up everybody and that kind of stuff. And he's kind of tasked. This kid's kind of tasked with, I guess, kind of interviewing the kid, wanting to show him around and kind of stuff. And what he, I guess, either didn't realize or didn't know is that Buddy Revell doesn't like to be touched. And he kind of makes the mistake of touching him at some point during the conversation. He puts his hand on his shoulder, And Buddy Revell immediately challenges to him fight after school at 3 o'clock. So that's why it's called 3 o'clock high. And basically the rest of the film is basically the main character trying to get out of that fight any way that he can. You know, he tries to like skip school. He tries to, you know, hire people in order to beat up Buddy Revell, and he does a bunch of different things, you know, to try to get himself out of that. He tries to bribe him to pay him off from fighting him, that kind of stuff. So, you know, so basically most of the film centers around the hijinks of him trying to like figure out a way to get out of school, or get out of having to fight this massive dude after school, because he knows that more than likely he's going to die. So, and he's not a fighter. He's never been in a fight or anything like that. And it's just a funny, fun comedy. And like I said, it just basically literally takes place maybe right before they go to school and towards the end of school. There is one scene, I guess, if you will, the next day. But you know, that's, and I don't count it because it's a very short scene at the very end. So, but other than that, it's mostly just set within, you know, well, I guess you could say it's a 24-hour period because it is kind of the next day, I guess, if you will. So, but yeah,
I think that sounds like a cheat. So, no, you didn't even want flashbacks, let alone.
Yeah. But I mean, Reservoir Dogs had a lot of flashbacks, dude. I mean, there was a lot, and some of those scenes were really, really long of him training for that part and stuff like that. So, hey man, it's on your list. You're the one that made that list. So,
if you want to justify the cheating, that's fine.
All these films came from your One Crazy Night and Day film, and guess what? 3 o'clock high is on that list.
Yeah, that's true. I love 3 o'clock high, and I would have, you know, again, if we were doing like a One Crazy Night or Day comedy list, I would have done Dazed and Confused, American Graffiti, Booksmart, Friday, Ferris Bueller, that one. You know, I had to stay away from genre because it just got too confusing, overwhelming for me. But I love 3 o'clock high. I actually saw it in the theater when I was like 9 or something, and I've always loved it ever since.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I think it's a really underrated movie. You know, it's one that's, I don't even know if you could call it a cult film because I don't think that many people have seen it at all.
I don't know.
Really,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people that I know hadn't seen it, but everybody that I've shown it to loved it. You know what I mean? Kind of
right.
thing. So,
yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's just a really, really funny film. So if you get a chance, check out 3 o'clock high. It's just a fun film. It's pretty short too. I think it's like 85 minutes, maybe 90 minutes max. Yeah. It's really short. But really, it's really good comedy. So if you get a chance,
and it's also got. Oh yeah, sorry.
It's also got who?
I was gonna say it's got a really great fight scene too.
Yeah, it does have a really good fight scene also. Yeah,
it's probably, you know, for a comedy, it's got one of the best like brawls I've seen in a comedy. You know, I mean, like I wasn't expecting that. I know that.
Yeah, and there was a remake that's loosely based on that, the one with Ice Cube or whatever. That's kind of sort of loosely based on it, but it's not as good. I can't think of the name of that film, but
Fist Fight.
Fist Fight, yeah. Fist Fight's kind of loosely based remake of 3 o'clock high, basically. But Fist Fight is more about the teachers and the students in that case. So
and
same concept though, where he gets challenged to a fight and he's trying to do everything he can to get out of that fight. That one just didn't work as well, in my opinion. So
except it sucks. Yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it sucks. It just wasn't as good. So
I'll say it sucks.
All right.
Are we moving on? Yeah, number two. You've seen this one.
Oh, well, good.
My number 2 for the One Crazy Night movies is Go.
Cool.
So, yeah, we just we recently recorded a best of 1999 list, and we both talk about this one. But this is definitely one of my favorite One Crazy Night movies. It is all in one night. It's kind of like Mystery Train. Actually, it's kind of 3 separate stories that kind of circle around each other and sort of intersect in some ways. But it's a really funny movie. It's got some really great action in it too. It's got a great cast. It's very, very unpredictable. I remember it's one of those that I actually remember sitting in the theater, like, you know, not knowing what was going to happen next the whole movie. And I love that feeling. So, but yeah, it's one of those movies, like we talked about in the other show. It's one of those movies that's highly influenced by Pulp Fiction. But so good that it is truly its own thing.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one crazy night for sure.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, I just love that film so much. If I did it didn't make my top 5 of this genre, but if I did a top 10, I'd like to believe it would have been in the top 10. So, I love that film. It's just, just so great. Like I said, it's definitely in my top 10 for that year for 1999, of course. Just a really, really just fun film. Like I said, I love the different stories. It's super funny. It's got some action in it as well, but it's got a lot of just great humor and just and I just love films that give you a different snapshot of different characters and that kind of that Pulp Fiction style, I guess, and that's why it's influenced heavily by that. But they give you a different snapshot of different characters at different points, but they're all basically happening around the same time, kind of thing. And some of the stories even intersect while it's happening. You know what I mean? Like you'll run into the characters that the other story was talking about. So you have like the first story, and then the film will reset and then take you through another walk of life of another group or another character, but they're all intertwined in some kind of way, and they all kind of like sort of come together at the end as well. So really great story. Yeah, great choice for sure. Probably would have been like number 7 for me if I did the top 10, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
So,
cool.
Cool. Yeah, and this is, like I said, this was really, really hard just because it's there's so many films, and then how literal do you get with it and that kind of stuff. So my number 2 is also a genre film, of course, because I don't care about that stuff like Jason does. I just went for what I like the most, you know what I mean? So my number 2 is actually going to be Die Hard,
Nice.
which is an action movie, one crazy night movie, and a Christmas movie.
Yeah. See that? I think that was the other show we were talking about, unconventional Christmas movies. And those
it's definitely all rolled into the one. Everybody and their grandma has seen Die Hard. Basically, stars Bruce Willis. Basically, there's a takeover of a building by a bunch of and they take hostages, and Bruce Willis's character gets tied up in it, and then basically his wife is one of the hostages. He ends up getting separated from the group and basically is trying to get to save his wife and kind of save the day. And obviously there's guys with machine guns, and there's lots of fights and violence and that sort of stuff. And just a really fun, violent film. One of my favorite movies of all time. Should be almost everybody's favorite movie, one of their favorite movies of all time. If you don't like Die Hard, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, definitely really high impact, and definitely one of the best One Crazy Night films ever. So so that's my number 2, Die Hard.
Yeah, one of the best movies ever. Yeah.
I mean, definitely. I mean, it's in my definitely top 25 of all time or something like that. So it's one of my favorite films of all time.
I remember I used to think that Die Hard and Lethal Weapon were kind of neck and neck for but I don't think that anymore. I mean, not that I don't love Lethal Weapon, but I used to think they were kind of neck and neck for I don't know, best action movie of the 80s or whatever. But I think Die Hard blows Lethal Weapon out of the water.
I think so too. I don't know if I've ever had them neck and neck though. I mean, I like Lethal Weapon. Don't get me wrong, but I just I don't know. If you give me a choice between Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, I'd rather watch Die Hard. Probably 9 times out of 10. You know what I mean? It's just I don't know. It's a more compacted action movie for one too. You know what I mean? So because it takes place over one night basically, so it's more compacted in that sense. So it's just it gets going quickly, and then that's all it does. You know what I mean? Whereas Lethal Weapon has action, but there's a lot of different elements to it because it's not shot over one night, I guess, if you will. So
yeah.
So, but no, both great films. So, but I prefer Die Hard by far. So.
Me too.
Cool.
All right,
we're at number 1.
All right, we're at number 1. So even without my funneling strategy, this would have been number 1 for sure. This is, in my opinion, the king, daddy of all One Crazy Night movies, the gold standard by which all other One Crazy Night movies should be judged, and that is Martin Scorsese's After Hours. So I just watched this today, and because I used Letterboxd, I know the last time I watched it was 7 years ago, and it didn't seem that way. Mm-hmm. But It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It is my favorite Martin Scorsese movie, which I know is probably a little bit of a controversial statement, but it's great. It is about this normal,
it is not better
average.
than Goodfellas.
It's what?
It's not better than Goodfellas.
Oh, it's better than Goodfellas.
No,
but Goodfellas is also.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find too many people that would agree with you on that notion. So
I don't know. I know of a couple, but anyway, a couple. But After Hours is a movie about kind of a normal, ordinary office drone character played by Griffin Dunn, who has kind of dropped out of acting. Must have been my choice because he was a good actor, and he was in this and American Werewolf in London and some really, really big movies, but I haven't seen him in a long time. He plays this normal guy who meets this this woman played by Rosanna Arquette. He hits it off in a coffee shop. They have like a spark together, and so he ends up going to her home in Soho later on that night, thinking he's gonna have a really good date or something like that. And all I can say without spoiling anything is that, like, if you think you've had a bad night, you've never had a night as bad as this guy in After Hours. And it's so brilliantly made. It's Martin Scorsese, so obviously he knows how to make movies. But it's so well written, so well acted. It's very funny. It's very, very dark, though. It almost feels like a horror movie in some ways. I would never call it a horror comedy, but it's definitely a comedy that feels like a horror movie because it just keeps getting darker and darker and darker, almost to where it feels almost like a myth or something almost. But it's really, really good. So anybody who hasn't seen After Hours, came out in 1985. If you haven't seen this movie and you like movies, you like laughing, you like being on the edge of your seat. Yeah, truly.
If you haven't seen this movie and you like movies,
yeah, watch this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So, and definitely, no matter what, would have always been my number one for this list. So, After Hours.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I would 100% agree that it's the greatest, One Crazy Night Day film, but I like it. It's okay. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen it in many years, so I don't remember all the particulars about it, but I just thought it was okay. I didn't think it was anything special. I could name easily 5 Scorsese movies that I like over that one, but that's just me. And I think most people would agree with me. So I'm sure you could find pockets, but I think 90% of people would agree. So yeah, let's just take his Oscar-nominated films and go there, and I think that alone would tell you what most people think.
All right.
So, but no, I don't remember it all that well. Like I said, I remember enjoying it overall, but I thought it was just kind of I don't want to say forgettable, but it was not one that I felt the need to revisit. So, just me personally.
You should. Well, you should.
Well, an even better movie, and one that is a cult classic, my number one, which is one that I think that most people love, and almost everybody I know loves, and most people would definitely say this one is better than After Hours because nobody's even seen After Hours. I'm messing with you. It's going to be Friday. So yeah, definitely I think that is the quintessential, for me, that is the quintessential day in a life set on Friday. Clearly everybody knows the story. Just one of the most funniest, films set in, the hood, if you will. Obviously stars Chris Tucker, Ice Cube. It's a smoking movie, a weed, drug smoking movie, that kind of stuff, but just funny. I mean, like I said, it just has all those great lines. The Bye Felicia, the It's Friday, you ain't got nothing to do, yada, yada, yada. I mean, everybody knows Friday. Don't need to go into that. And I think that is the number one crazy day, one crazy night within a 24-hour period film. And I just love it. One of my favorite films of all time. It's in my all-time top 10. And everybody loves Friday, and everybody hates After Hours. No, I'm just messing with you.
Shut up.
But that's my number one is Friday. So
okay. Yeah. Friday's a great movie. I'm not gonna knock on Friday. So great choice. I will say it's not anywhere close to being as good as After Hours, though. So there's that.
You are
there's
on
that.
drugs.
Yeah.
I think you've been hanging out with Smokey too long. Friday is definitely a superior film to that.
Not on this
By
planet.
far.
Not on this planet. But that's cool.
But hey, you at home, if you're watching this and you've seen both those films, you can always, let us know in the comments. What do you like? What's your favorite One Crazy Day, One Crazy Night film? Let us know your choices. Do these ones stack up? Let us know.
Well, mine do, for sure. But...
no. No one's seen or even heard of half of those films on your list.
Well, they should. That's why I'm doing this. So
all right. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see who goes and runs out and watches it. No, it's not a bad list. I haven't seen most of them, so I can't really comment on them. And the ones that I did see, I barely even remember. So
you've seen 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I've seen 3 out of 5, and there's only one that I remember distinctly, which is Go. So, but the other ones are 80s films, so I haven't seen them in many years, so it's hard for me to really remember them that well. But who knows? Maybe I'll revisit them, and I'll be like, you know what? No, I won't do that. Actually,
shut up. You should watch Tangerine though.
Yeah, I'll probably check that out, and if I get some time.
That's 2015, I think. So you don't have to go back.
I do remember hearing about it. I remember it making like your list, your top 10 list or something for that year. But I don't remember. I do remember reading about it and hearing about it, but it just was one of the ones I never really got around to seeing. And honestly, I wasn't one that I was dying to see anyways. But
it's a blast.
I'll check it out someday. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, that's once again, like I said, that's our list. If you have any other films that you want to share, or that you think that we missed, or you think that were better films, I mean, granted, Jason excluded probably the best films of that list. He just went
whatever. No,
you said that you didn't want to pick any genre films. If you'd went with straight genre films, I want to say that some of those films might have been over some of these ones. You're not saying I don't know. Best Crazy Day, Crazy Night, all in a whole, are you?
Sort of, yeah. Because I'm saying see, that's what tripped me out. I mean, technically, Night of the Living Dead it's a one night. It takes place all in one night. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, but it's not what I think of when I think of this kind of movie, which is a short span of time. Someone gets in over their head, or just has one experience after the other that is just insane. So that's what I was going for. Yes, I love movies that are set within a condensed time frame, but for this list, I really wanted to condense it to, yes, Night of the Living Dead is probably better than maybe all of these except for After Hours, maybe even After Hours, but it's not the kind of movie that I think of when I think of this kind of a One Crazy Night movie, which is just one, like a regular person or 2 regular people that just have a wild night. You know what I mean? So I don't know how to describe it. It makes sense to me. And just getting rid of genre was the only way I could whittle it down from 50, to be honest. So that's what I had to do. But
all right.
I definitely still say these 5 movies are amazing though. So you should check them out if you haven't.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Check those films out, or watch the ones that I suggested. Because those ones are all good, for sure. And you might have heard of most of them. So
whatever.
No, I'm just messing with you. Yeah. Cool. Well, that wraps up another show. We'll do one of these probably again sometime soon. We've been doing a lot of our other list shows, like our top 10s for the years, and we've been doing obviously new reviews, but we'll continue to keep incorporating these kind of quirky type shows in every once in a while. Also, I still like doing those. It was just when we began, that's kind of all we were doing, was like quarantine shows and stuff like that. So, Bags of Money films, stuff, so we kind of took a break, but we'll be getting back to doing those types of shows and incorporating those types of shows again. And always, if there's a show that you want us to do, or a show that you think that would be a good topic for us, by all means, go ahead and suggest in the comments down below. And, if we get around to it, maybe we'll do a show on that and give you a shout out or something of that nature. So, But as always, we appreciate the support. We ask you to continue to like and subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell notification so you don't miss out whenever we upload a new video. And we will be back once again real soon with another show for you. Thanks so much. Bye.